Hey guys, welcome back to Ranger Survival and Fieldcraft. I'm Andrew, and what I have for you today is a Swiss Army knife survival hack that I haven't seen anyone do yet, and that is how to get out of handcuffs with a Swiss Army knife. Stand by. Alright guys, when I say we can use any Swiss Army knife to get out of handcuffs, I mean any Swiss Army knife. And I have a lot of Swiss Army knives. This is actually the Swiss Army knife that was my pocket knife I took to Ranger School, but I digress. But we can use any Swiss Army knife to actually get out of handcuffs. Now, before we actually demonstrate how to get out of handcuffs using a Swiss Army knife, we have to understand what type of restraints are on our wrist. So we need to take a look at the handcuffs we have right here and develop a little bit of knowledge before we attempt this skill, because it's going to help you guys out should you ever try this. Now, there's three general styles or designs of handcuffs. One is going to be the basic design like this, keyhole in the center, double lock out to the side. Another example is going to be something like Smith & Wesson's. Smith & Wesson's are going to have the same keyhole, but it's going to be off to the side, and it's going to be perpendicular compared to its orientation with the double lock mechanism, which sits at the top. The double lock is actually this aperture right here, the aperture right here on the second cuff, and you would use a little pin on the handcuff key to actually go in here like this and set the double lock just like that, and now the double lock is set. So it's very different from a basic style. That third style, of which I don't have an example, is something called a multi-paw. With a multi-paw handcuff, it's going to have a line in the center of the teeth that runs down the ratchet arm, separating those into pairs of teeth, and it requires a special key now. It would be a similar handcuff key like this, but on the tooth right at the front, there will be a small gap separating what is one tooth now into two, so it can actually grip the lock mechanism for the ratchet inside. It's a more complicated handcuff to actually pick, and it's used actually quite frequently by terrorists. Alright, so what we have in front of us are basic style handcuffs. The way we know they're basic style is that the keyhole is in the center on each cuff face. We can feel this with our finger if we happen to be detained behind our back, or if we're blindfolded for whatever reason, we can feel the cuff face, which is one of the first things you want to do to figure out what type of restraint is around your wrists. Another thing to look for and feel for are the double lock dimples or holes on the side of the cuff itself. You see one, two. We have two dimples, one on each cuff. That is the double lock. That is where the pin on the handcuff key goes in to depress the double lock. What that double lock does is lock the handcuff in place when it's around our wrist, meaning we cannot collapse the ratchet arm and we cannot expand it to get our wrist out. So it's locked in place. That's why it's called the double lock. It's a lock on top of an actual lock. Alright, so we've confirmed that this is a basic style set of handcuffs. Now, why that information is important is because the handcuff key will disarm not only the ratchet arm, releasing the handcuff, but it will also deactivate or disengage the double lock inside the key. So we know that when we go to actually escape, if the double lock is engaged, we have to defeat it through the keyhole. Alright, so let's demonstrate this really quick using our key. Now, we feel the front of the cuff, we find the keyhole in the center, we feel the side, find the dimple where the double lock is. Now we test the ratchet. It won't move, meaning the double lock is engaged. If we had the key, we would just put the key in the keyhole. We have to turn it counterclockwise toward the chain, and you're going to hear a click. That click is the double lock disengaging. Let's remove the key, and then now, once we test the ratchet arm, it will move, meaning the double lock is now disengaged. And then from here, we just put the key back in, turn it clockwise, holding it in place, and we can release the ratchet arm. Alright, so our handcuffs are reset, double lock is engaged. We're going to take away the key. Now, we don't have a key, but if we did happen to have a Swiss Army knife with us, we can use that Swiss Army knife to escape those handcuffs. And here's how. Every Swiss Army knife has one of the same features, almost every Swiss Army knife. There are a few out there that do not have this same feature, but 90% of the time, every Swiss Army knife is going to have this same feature that we can use to defeat basic style handcuffs, and that is the tweezers. That's right, we're going to use tweezers. The tweezers out of a Swiss Army knife we can use to actually escape handcuffs. It's so simple and easy, we're going to demonstrate that here. All right, so what we're going to do with these tweezers is we're just going to take the legs and we're going to spread them out. Notice there's a little piece of plastic right here holding the tweezers together that we use our thumbnail or fingernail to actually get the tweezers out of the Swiss Army knife. That may or may not break off, but what we want to do is just simply bend these out, something like that. Now that we have our tweezers spread apart, we're only going to use one leg or one arm of the tweezers. We're ready to defeat the double lock. You remember from earlier when we were checking our handcuff, the dimple of the double lock on the side of the handcuff. That's the direction we're going to push. We're going to take our little handcuff shim now, or our little pick made out of those tweezers from our Swiss Army knife. And there's the traditional keyhole shape for a handcuff. We're going to take that piece of metal, one leg, put it down in the bottom of the keyhole, straight in. It's only going to go down a few millimeters or so. Now we're going to move it around until we feel some pressure or some resistance. From here, we're going to simply push, similar to a lever, to push out that double lock, and you're going to hear a click. And you saw how far that moved, and you heard the click. Now we can look over, and we see that the double lock is now disengaged. We check by squeezing the ratchet. Squeezing that arm, it moves, which confirms that the double lock is now disengaged. Now we can break out of the handcuff. I'll show you guys this on the other handcuff so you can see the actual double lock button pop out as we defeat the double lock. Watch for it, listen for the click. You heard the click, and now you can see the difference between a double lock side and an undouble lock side handcuff with that dimple now depressed out. Alright, both double locks are defeated. Now how do we get our hands out of these handcuffs still using these same tweezers? We're not going to be able to actually use our tweezers from a Swiss Army knife to get in the keyhole and turn the unlock mechanism or the ratchet in here to release that ratchet arm of the handcuff itself. But we can still use these tweezers another way to get the handcuff off, and we're going to use it as a simple shim. You'll notice there is just a small amount of space right here where the ratchet teeth are inserted into the cuff, just small enough for a thin piece of metal to slide in. What we do is take our tweezers, put it in that little gap, and then insert and push down until it won't go anymore. Now what we have to do is a little bit of finesse. We push down on the actual handcuff ratchet arm itself and the tweezers at the same time. Once we get a little bit of movement, we're going to push the tweezers into the cuff as far as they'll go, covering the teeth that hook onto the ratchet arm and then blocking those teeth from locking onto the actual handcuff arm itself, and then we can actually twist this out and open. And now what's happening here is that shim is covering the locking teeth, and now we can actually pull the cuff arm free, holding the tweezers in place, and then toward the end it might get a little bit more tight, but now we have that cuff open and we're out. Now we can get that other cuff off our other wrist. Same thing, we just take our shim, put it in that little space in between the handcuff, the teeth, and the ratchet arm. We depress slightly, giving us a little bit of space, slide in that shim as best as possible until it's flush, so that whole piece of metal is in there, and then now we can actually take it out and open up those handcuffs and escape from our other wrist. And then best of all, because we haven't broken these tweezers, we can just collapse them back down, place them right back inside of our Swiss Army knife, and nobody will know the difference. You see right there inside the handcuff, those three little teeth right there, that's where the ratchet arm of the handcuff locks into place, and that's what we're trying to defeat with our shim. What happens is the shim itself goes in and then slides over top of those teeth, creating just a smooth surface. That way we can actually retract the handcuff arm and pull it free from the actual lock itself. And that's how to shim out of there. Alright, knowing that, now we're going to do a full run through and demonstration. Let's get rid of that handcuff key. Whenever we present for restraint, always present with your hands to your front like this in a meek gesture and attempt to actually get restrained in your front instead of having your hands placed behind your back and restrained. Doesn't always work, obviously. So put the cuff on. We got the cuff key. We're going to do the double lock. 1, 2. Alright, they didn't take our little Swiss Army knife off of us, or they didn't find it, or we somehow found it or got it, whatever. The opportunity is there now for escape. And so we're going to take out the tweezers, bend them, and then we're going to defeat the double lock. And take our shim, place it inside the keyhole, find resistance, and then lift up. Heard the click. Double lock is disengaged. We can tell the double lock is disengaged because we can move the ratchet. And now all we need to do is shim out. When in doubt, shim out. So we'll take our shim, and this is going to be 10 times harder behind your back. Place it in the opening down here at the bottom of the cuff, and now holding everything together at the same time, we're going to ratchet down and then push in that shim. And you can see the shim is in there. And then from here, all we have to do is hold the shim in place and rotate out. And there's one handcuff off. We're now free technically, but we can get these handcuffs off. Using the shim again, it's going to be a lot more comfortable this time. Place the shim in. Make some cool jailhouse music. Press the ratchet arm and then slide the shim in. Or simply push, I guess. And this one's just a little bit harder. Pull free. And now we're out of our handcuffs. We broke our shim in the process. Alright guys, that was a Swiss Army knife survival hack, one that I haven't seen, that I don't think anybody's done. So that's a fresh new one to put in your kit bag. How to get out of handcuffs, or at least basic style handcuffs, with the tweezers from your Swiss Army knife. I really hope you liked this video. A very down and dirty video this weekend. If you did like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment in the comment section. I always appreciate your feedback. I want to thank you guys for everything you do for me, for this channel, for your likes, your views, your subscriptions, your comments, your feedback, and your shares. And I'll be back with another video as soon as I can, guys. Thanks.